Welcome to week 8 and congratulations on making it to your final week of Cultures in Conflict. In Chapter 8, our authors start off with a brief review of the first 7 chapters. Chapter 1. In this chapter, we are taught the importance of metaphors, especially when dealing with a culture in conflict. Metaphors help keep interaction between conflicting groups going, as they help each of us see a perspective from another person's point of view. In Chapter 2, we use the metaphor of a river to help us understand that cultures are ever-changing carriers of big important ideas and less visible stories of the past. Cultures are affected by outside influences and by human intentions, but by every change, orchestrated or not, has effects far beyond the boundaries of a single culture. Chapter 2 concludes with a discussion of the rational and symbolic aspects of conflict, emphasizing that conflict cannot be addressed durably unless the meanings people have associated with the conflict are shifted. We also learned that these meanings are communicated and learned through rituals, stories, and metaphors. In Chapter 3, we learned that not only does culture shape our behavior, but also our identities and meanings. We discussed the 6 starting points where most people start culturally. We use these starting points to cover a set of dynamic and fluid tools to help us engage in cultural differences. We also learned that we all have stereotypes and classifications we tend to assign to others, and how doing this can be a serious impediment in bridging the gaps of cultural conflict. In Chapter 4, we are introduced to the concept of cultural fluency as we learn its benefits of learning the values, norms, and identities of different cultures as seen through that group lens. Next, we learn cultural fluency encourages us to anticipate, embed, express, and navigate. In Chapter 5, we use the metaphor of an oasis to see how identity and ways of making meaning shape what seems like natural behavior when conflicts come up. We also learned that conflict cannot be fully understood without considering the cultural dynamics that inform and express it. Finally, we discussed the possibility of violence that attends a lack of cross-cultural understanding as it escalates in times of stress. Chapter 6 presents capacities and skills by which we can interrupt a negative trajectory in a relationship. We learned there are 3 capacities, and that those are deep resources within each of us that we access in times of creation and conflict alike. The 3 capacities are the capacity of flexibility, the capacity of creativity, and the capacity of momentum. We learn we need both capacities and skills to successfully engage intercultural conflict. Capacities to imagine different choices, flexibility, invent new paths, creative engagement, and maintain progress, or momentum. Within each of these 3 capacities, we learn that there are 3 components. Within the capacity of flexibility, we learn the components are interrupting patterns, sitting with discomfort, and dancing with surprise. Within the capacity of creativity, we learn that the components are metaphor, story, and ritual. And within the capacity of momentum, we learn that the components are revealing uncertainty, pausing, and intuition. In Chapter 7, we bring all of this knowledge and tools together to present us with a roadmap to use when navigating through cultural conflicts. The metaphor of a map is used because there is always more than one route to collaboration. The map is offered as a navigational tool to help us make sense of differences in a variety of contexts. The map lays out 4 aspects of the relational process designed to support and ultimately end in collaboration. They include preparation, discovery, creativity, and rejuvenation. After the review, our authors spend the remainder of the book discussing the cultural challenges and the processes that they went through in the process of writing this book. In reflection, they determined that there were 3 essential elements to the successful completion of the book, which they accomplished through multicultural teamwork. The elements included process, relationship, and outcome. Process is basically how they did what they did together, working as a team. All were involved from different parts of the world. The relationship refers how they learned to interact with each other, and the outcome refers to their final achievements. The authors bring this up because in their view, what they did as a multicultural team supports what they are saying in our textbook, which includes that interdependent and mutually reinforcing factors create synergy for effective multicultural teamwork. A multicultural team can be empowered to develop its own cohesive identity and culture. Team members will develop shared patterns of meaning as they work and become comfortable with each other, and rituals develop that have meaning only for that group. For example, shared humor, inside jokes, and patterns of work. Next, our authors do a whitewash, or a list of lessons learned from the process. Rather than regurgitating the entire last 15 pages of the textbook, the following is a list of lessons learned regarding cultural conflict as it relates to the author's experiences while writing this book. When all was said and done, the author's cultural lenses remained distinct. The key reason this multicultural group of authors was able to complete this project was their self-awareness of the individual members and shared commitment of all group members to valuing others' perspectives. Relationship building is facilitated in multicultural teams when members begin sharing life experiences, normally through storytelling. Effective cross-cultural work calls for a delicate dance between groups and individual voices and frequent communication. In multicultural teams, it's important to balance self and group expectations so they are not competing orientations, but they are complementary. In mixing voices, the team sought to honor individual meaning-making while distilling such expression in ways that speak to diverse audiences. Group members found, through repeated experiences, that everyone had a great deal to contribute and no one's contributions were superior to any others. Not everybody has the same attitude or appetite for monitoring processes, relationships, and outcomes. And conflict happens. Regardless of how careful a group makes intentional choices about communications and processes, conflict is just going to happen. It's human nature. People can experience conflict as a learning experience and choose to renew relationships with those with whom we are in conflict. And finally, engaging conflict, whether as an individual or a group, is an ongoing process which is never complete. In conclusion, our authors offer us a separate list of lessons they learned with regards to multicultural team development and functioning. First, balance your voices. Adopt communication norms that honor individual stories and collective learning. Monitor those processes. Ensure that relationships, and outcome needs are met. Value the yin and yang. Balance emphasis on achievement and exploration, being and doing, creativity and standardization, leadership and team collaboration, and uncertainty and closure. Monitor core assumptions. Engage in ongoing dialogue about assumptions informing collaborative work, especially hidden or private assumptions. Expand cultural fluency. Encourage each other to anticipate, express, and navigate differences with the spirit of inquiry. Deepen collaboration. Involve group members in ongoing attention to process, relationships, roles, and outcomes. Cultivate flexibility. Attend to tensions between assimilation and diversity. Utilize sparks and scraps. Notice that's sparks spelled backwards, and it means those forgotten or buried remains of ourselves where hurt or pain is lodged until triggered by someone's comments or actions. Use moments of uncertainty, tensions, and aha moments as cues for reflection and dialogue to reduce those scraps. And finally, invite reflection. Foster honest reflection on processes, relationships, and outcomes. I hope you found the study of culture and conflict as fascinating as I do. Be proud of the work you've done in this course, and I hope you've also had the opportunity to engage in some personal reflection and expansion of your own cultural lenses and cultural fluency. Remember, this course culminates in your final project, where you will be examining and creating a resolution plan for a conflict of your choosing. I hope you enjoy the process of examining a conflict from the inside out, and maybe someday we'll get to see you brokering peace at the United Nations.